Welcome to the Explainer. We rely on our home's heating and cooling literally every single day. But have you ever stopped and wondered what's actually tearing it apart behind the walls? Today, we're using Whitehall, Ohio's brutal, constantly fluctuating climate as our ultimate test case. Why Whitehall? Well, because if an HVAC system can survive 85% summer humidity and sub-20-degree winters there, the lessons we learn apply absolutely anywhere. We're going to unpack the realities of how these systems fail, how to prevent it, and the hidden math behind fixing them. So let's get right into the homeowner's survival guide to HVAC.
Here's a quick look at our agenda for today. This is basically your practical table of contents for diagnosing, surviving, and affordably fixing HVAC emergencies. We'll cover everything from the anatomy of failure and environmental impacts to the repair process, insider rules of thumb, and finally, lifespans and costs.
Section 1. The anatomy of HVAC failure. How the invisible war breaks your system. Okay, let's dive into this.
You might think your air conditioner just mysteriously gives up on the absolute hottest day of the year, right? But honestly, failures are rarely random. As I was digging through the source material, I found a fascinating and incredibly common culprit, especially in older neighborhoods, home additions without ductwork upgrades. Imagine you finally build that beautiful new sunroom or convert your garage into a home office. It's super exciting, but if you don't upgrade the ducts, you're forcing the exact same volume of air through a system that just wasn't built for that bigger footprint. You get heavily restricted airflow. This makes your system work incredibly hard, running continuously, totally out of breath, without ever actually reaching the set temperature on your thermostat. The inevitable result of all this? Premature component failure. You're basically suffocating the machine until it finally breaks.
That means sizing is absolutely everything. Now, human nature kind of tells us that bigger is usually better, right? Give me the V8 engine, not the 4-cylinder. But seeing how this works in HVAC is genuinely surprising, because if a contractor guesses your system size based purely on square footage and goes too big, it is a disaster. On the left, we see oversized systems. Because they're way too powerful, they short cycle. They blast a ton of cold air, shut off way too fast, and actually completely fail to dehumidify the space. That leaves your house feeling cold but incredibly clammy, all while wasting massive amounts of energy. On the right, undersized systems have the exact opposite problem. They run constantly, desperately struggling to heat or cool the space, leading directly to rapid mechanical failure. To get it right, you can't just guess. You need precise mathematical load calculations.
Moving on to Section 2, Environment versus your system, when local weather attacks.
The hyper-local environmental data here is just wild to uncover. Your hardware is fighting a silent war outside every single day. Look at our Whitehall test case. Homes near Big Walnut Creek battle a staggering 85% summer humidity, which causes serious, heavy condensation that can easily lead to ductwork mold. Over on Hamilton Road, there's a totally different enemy, heavy traffic. I was genuinely amazed to learn that the constant low-level vibration from heavy trucks over several years literally shakes the electrical connections loose inside outdoor units. No way, right? And across the whole of Franklin County, the clay-heavy soil shifts dramatically during winter freeze-thaw cycles. And this brilliantly illustrates how highly specific local hazards connect to universal equipment strain that your own system might be fighting right now.
Let's walk through the sheer physics of how that ground movement destroys your cooling, because it's a perfect example of a micro to macro chain reaction. Step 1. Those winter freeze-thaw cycles cause the clay soil around your house to expand and contract. Step 2. The heavy concrete mounting pad that your outdoor unit sits on begins to settle unevenly because of that shifting earth. Step 3. The copper refrigerant lines attached to that unit are rigidly fixed to your house. So as the pad sinks, those copper lines are pulled and strained until they eventually snap or leak. Literally, a single millimeter of shifting clay in November can lead to a complete loss of your home's cooling capacity on a 90-degree day in July.
Shifting gears to the winter months, we really need to talk about heat exchanger metal fatigue. And I want to be very serious here. This is a structural failure that typically occurs after 15 to 20 years of hard winter usage. The constant daily expansion and contraction from heating and cooling creates microscopic cracks in the metal of the heat exchanger. Why does this matter so much? Because those cracks allow deadly, odorless carbon monoxide to escape the combustion chamber and enter your home's living airflow. This isn't just about waking up a little chilly because the furnace died. An aging furnace can become a literal, silent life safety hazard. That reality totally elevates this work far beyond mere weekend handyman repairs.
Section 3. The 3-step repair process. Navigating an emergency without the stress.
When things do inevitably break down, a legitimate professional operation follows a very structured sequence to eliminate your anxiety. Think about the absolute misery of sitting in a 95-degree house sweating on your couch, only for a technician to finally arrive and say, "Yeah, I need to order that part, we'll have it by Tuesday." That's why step 1 is immediate dispatch with fully stocked trucks. You shouldn't be waiting days for common carrier, Trane, or Lennox parts. Step 2 is upfront, flat-rate pricing before the work even begins. That means no hourly rate surprises if a job takes longer than expected. And step 3 is post-repair safety testing and follow-up. Understanding this structured sequence is incredibly valuable because it shifts the power back to you and helps you spot a subpar contractor instantly. Zooming in on that critical last step, we have combustion safety testing. This is a mandatory protocol required by Ohio Building Code. Technicians utilize highly specialized combustion analyzers to measure oxygen levels, carbon monoxide output, and flue draft to confirm proper safe venting out of your home. Listen, if a technician finishes working on your gas furnace, packs up their tool bag, and tries to hand you an invoice without ever pulling out a combustion analyzer, consider that a massive red flag. Legitimate technicians never skip this step. It is the absolute dividing line between a professional, regulated repair and a dangerous cut-rate quick fix that puts your family's health at risk.
Section 4. Insider Rules of Thumb. Secrets to saving your system and your wallet. Let's get into some industry secrets.
As we look at the data, the crucial point is, it all comes down to the single digit, the number 3. It's incredibly simple, but learning what this number represents can legitimately save you thousands of dollars in emergency equipment replacements.
It stands for the 3-minute rule. Always wait 3 full minutes before restarting your air conditioner. Think about human nature for a second. When the power flickers or someone accidentally bumps the thermostat to off in the middle of a heat wave, our immediate panicked reaction is to flip it back to cool instantly. But when you shut a system off, the refrigerant pressures inside the lines are highly unbalanced. If you get impatient and restart it immediately, you're forcing the system's compressor to try and start up against that incredibly high pressure wall. You risk immediately burning out the motor. So, if the system clicks off, take a breath, set a timer on your phone, and let 3 minutes of patience save your compressor from an early, very expensive grave.
Next up is the brilliant $5,000 rule. When a technician is standing in your living room giving you bad news, emotions run high. This rule removes the panic and gives you cold, hard logic. It's a simple formula. Multiply the system's age by the estimated repair cost. Let's break it down. Item 1, a 12-year-old unit needs a $500 repair. 12 times 500 equals 6,000. That's over 5,000, so the rule says replace. Item 2, a 7-year-old unit needs a $400 repair. 7 times 400 is 2,800. Since it's under 5,000, the rule says repair. This gives you an immediate, brilliant mathematical tool to make major financial decisions right there on the spot, completely removing the guesswork.
Section 5. Lifespans, timelines, and costs. Let's plan for the inevitable. The data here reveals a stark reality check. Air conditioners average under 15 years. And when you think about it, it makes total sense. Their primary failure cause is constant outdoor weather exposure. They sit outside taking an absolute beating from summer sun, severe thunderstorms, and winter ice. Heat pumps get about 15 to 20 years with heavy year-round usage, since they handle both heating and cooling. And gas furnaces can last up to 20 years, finally surrendering to that heat exchanger fatigue we discussed earlier. The major takeaway here? Because your furnace is safely tucked away in a basement or closet, your outdoor cooling units will almost always surrender to the elements long before your indoor hardware does. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how timing a purchase can completely shift the economic power back to you. The absolute best time to buy? October and November. The summer rush is totally over, manufacturers want to clear inventory, and you get closeout pricing. March and April are also good, as you catch that pre-cooling season window. But July and January? Those are the worst times. That is peak emergency season. When it's 10 degrees or 100 degrees outside and your system is dead, you have literally zero negotiating power. Understanding this timeline allows you to plan ahead so you're buying a major home appliance on your terms, not out of total desperation.
Let's also clear up a major, often costly misconception about insurance bailouts. Yes, your homeowner's insurance covers acute perils like a lightning strike, a house fire, or a tree falling on your unit. But I was genuinely surprised to learn how strict they are about the fact that it absolutely does not cover wear and tear, poor maintenance, or old age. In fact, some insurance adjusters strictly require documented proof of annual maintenance before they'll even consider a claim. If you neglect your system for 5 years and it breaks, you will be paying completely out of pocket. Routine maintenance isn't just a contractor upsell. It's your baseline requirement to make sure your actual insurance policy works when you need it.
Which brings us to our final question to consider today. Is your HVAC system approaching that critical 15-year mark? And are you making the right maintenance choices right now to survive the next extreme season?
The moment this explainer is over, I highly recommend walking outside, finding the manufacturing date sticker on your outdoor unit, and checking its age. Use the $5,000 rule we just covered, do the math, and take control of your home's comfort before the extreme weather decides for you. Thank you so much for exploring this with me, and stay comfortable out there.